You are listening to the Yasmin Essa podcast. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be unto you. This is your host, Yasmin Essa, and I am the founder of Wellness with Yasmin, where I coach women and their families to live healthier, happier lives for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I am a board certified holistic health coach, and I work with women through one-on-one coaching and online courses. Thank you so much for taking time today to spend with me and my special guest. Welcome to episode number 1. Today's show is an interview with the wonderful Derya Kucukali. She is a holistic health coach based in Melbourne, Australia. How cool is that? MashaAllah. She is a married mother of 3 children. MashaAllah. She has a degree in science in microbiology and genetics, which I find so fascinating. She has her own health store online called Organic Instinct, which she's been running successfully for 6 years, mashallah. I've seen some things that they carry, and they've definitely carried some amazing things. For her full bio, you can visit today's show notes at wellnesswithyasmin.com/1, where you can learn even more about her, and you can see all the links to everywhere. You can find her online, inshallah. She is really amazing on today's interview, and we talk about so many different things. We cover her daily non-negotiable habits, things that come easy to her, something that she struggles with, what she does when she feels stressed or overwhelmed, and examples from her life when she overcame adversity. And as you could see, we keep it real. Today's episode is sponsored by Glow Academy, particularly the 6-week Ramadan online Mind, Body, Soul retreat. To learn more about Glow Academy, visit wellnesswithyasmin.com/glow for a plethora of different holistic health courses for your mind, body, and soul. For some preview classes, you can also visit wellnesswithyasmin.com/sample. Thank you to Glow Academy for making this episode possible. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuhu. I'm very excited to be here today with Derya Kucukali. Assalamu alaikum, Derya.
Wa alaikum salam, Yasmin.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah. How are you, sister?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. Thank you for asking. Do you mind starting us off telling us a little bit about yourself, both personally and professionally?
Sure. I'm a mother of 3 children, alhamdulillah, married mother of 3. And my days are spent with running a business, alhamdulillah, working as a health coach and running the family household, alhamdulillah. So my background is in a Bachelor of Science, alhamdulillah, where I majored in microbiology. And from there on, I took up teaching, which I did for 10 years. I was a science teacher in secondary school.
MashaAllah.
And alhamdulillah, after that, I embarked on a career in health coaching. And from there, I established my own organics and natural products health business, which is running online, alhamdulillah, at the moment. So a lot happening on our plate. And I've got a 12-month-old at the moment. So life is incredibly busy, but in a healthy way, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. That is so great. Thank you for sharing. I love that you shared all those different backgrounds. I feel I could be mistaken, but I feel like also when I was reading your biography, you also did some studying with genetics. Is that correct? Or am I?
That would be a second major.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Immunology and genetics were definitely the 2 favorites at university.
Okay. Yeah, alhamdulillah. That's very interesting for sure. So tell us, how did your passion for health and wellness come about?
I would have to say, as cliche as it sounds, it came about with the birth of my first child. So my first child is also Yasmin. And she was born 13 years ago, I felt incredibly responsible for this life that I've given birth to. And as a mother, I wanted to give her the best of everything. And therefore, my journey began with her birth. And the other inspiration for this journey would probably also be my husband, who also has a science and genetics background. Part of his honors and his thesis involved investigating a bug that was eating away at the vine leaves at a vineyard.
Wow.
And he said to me, "Oh, Derya," he said, "today I went out into the field to investigate this bug, and we had to wear suits that resembled a hazmat suit." He looked like he was about to go out into space. And I said, "Well, why?" He said, "Well, because they sprayed the vineyard 2 weeks prior to picking the grapes. And so we had to cover ourselves to avoid any, sort of health risk." And I thought, well, hang on a minute, light bulb moment. If you had to wear a hazmat suit almost to go into the vineyard, what does that say about the food that we have to eat from this agriculture? What if I was to consume those grapes? And that sort of started to raise a lot of questions for me. And so putting one-on-one together and having my science background, I think really cemented the need to be more health conscious and to be more aware of the products that we were using on our body, consuming, the environment and the impact it's having on our environment. So my husband says to me, "I gave you a little bit and you took off with it like lightning." So he always likes to take credit for everything that I do. Alhamdulillah. He is my backbone in everything that I'm doing, mashallah. So credit is due to him as well.
Alhamdulillah, that is a wonderful story, both the scientific angle and the husband angle, and also the birth of your first daughter, mashallah. And in regards to the credit, that's kind of funny. This podcast is being launched 2018. It started being planned in 2017, and it's probably like 3 or 4 years ago. My husband's like, "Oh, you should, with all the work you're doing, you should do a podcast. Podcasts are big. You should do a podcast." So subhanallah, he gets, although he's being very modest now that I'm actually like pursuing it, and is like, maybe I planted the seed, but alhamdulillah. So that's interesting. But yeah, it's food for thought regarding the suit that he had to wear. And really, when you start to take accountability and look at things that sometimes aren't questioned. So you run an online health store, Organic Instinct. Could you share some information about that for anyone who may be curious about what that is, and maybe some of the story of how you got into that and what you do there?
Yeah, sure. We've been running the online store for over 5 years now, alhamdulillah, very successfully. And as the community is waking up to health and well-being, naturally we're getting more inquiries, we're getting more orders, and I love answering customer questions. I love directing them to the best product that suits them. And it's interesting, the way it began really is I was teaching at school, and I had many friends and family asking me, "So what do you use for your hair, and what do you use when you're cleaning your shower, and how do you do this and how do you do that?" And I thought, you know what, look, I'm going to go to the health store. When I purchase my products, I'll purchase for you as well. And one day my brilliant husband again said, "Look, why don't you purchase in bulk and sell the products to people, and make a profit margin for yourself, and maybe think of creating a business for yourself?" And I thought, oh no, I don't think so. I'm not a businesswoman, I'm a teacher. And one thing led to the other, and we started very humbly at markets, just doing, a table stall at a market here and a market there, and eventually turned my living room into a shop, and a walk-in shop for customers, which then grew to an online store, which is where it is now. Alhamdulillah, we've definitely been expanding in Australia, and our next project is to expand internationally with our products. Alhamdulillah, it's been a great blessing, and it started off with just an idea, and it has grown immensely. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, that is really great. One of my favorite quotes, I don't know if you're familiar with Marie Forleo, but one of my favorite quotes that she says is, "Everything is figure-outable." And I like to actually edit her quote a little bit and add on, "Everything is figure-outable with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." And that's so true, how sometimes like an idea could just spark. And that's really great. We'll definitely be including some information at the end about your shop for those local to you. And then, inshallah, even those international could, I'll be excited about that when it's international as well. Alhamdulillah. So that's really great. In terms of your daily habits, do you have any sort of non-negotiables? When I say non-negotiables, I mean things that are, regardless of what's going on, those things happen because you've decided that they're important to you, whether that's mentally, spiritually, physically, that you wouldn't mind sharing?
A non-negotiable habit, one of the first things I do in the morning after Fajr, which is non-negotiable, it's my time, everyone's sleeping, is a mug of hot water. I've got to end the night drought. So I have a mug of nice warm water to go through the body and rehydrate. That will be followed by a beautiful herbal tea with whatever herbs I've got lying around. So I'll throw in some clove and some cinnamon, maybe some green tea, and a drizzle of honey, and I'll have that in my pure quiet morning. It's almost like a meditation for me. I wait, even though I've got a 12-month-old and I'm probably waking 5 times a night to breastfeed him because we co-sleep, I will make that time every morning after Fajr while it's still fairly dark and it's quiet, and I have that time as a reflection of what I plan to do for that day, what I'm grateful for awakening again to another day, to another sunrise, alhamdulillah, and planning out my day. It's a time that I don't swap for anything. It's very valuable to me. That's definitely non-negotiable. And another one, I suppose, that happens in the morning is that everyone has to be told before they go to schoolwork is, I love you.
Oh, mashallah.
Because we are here now, we are gone tomorrow. And it's very important to always tell our loved ones that we love them. So before my children head out to school, or if I'm dropping them off, I love you, have a great day, I miss you already. And the other thing I suppose, which has been instilled in me from a very young age from my beautiful mother, may Allah bless her, is to read my Muawwidhatayn. So my Ikhlas, Falaq, Nas, Ayatul Kursi, and to spread that over my body, and to encourage my children to do that too, to ask Allah for protection, because without Allah's protection, without Allah's will, I cannot achieve anything. It is with His will that I'm given this ability to do what I do day in, day out, alhamdulillah. So that's another non-negotiable. So really it's the spiritual side and the physical side for my health. Those two things I do, and for my mental health as well. I definitely strive to do these practices daily, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, thank you so much for sharing those. And I don't even know where to begin because those are all so awesome, mashallah. And regarding the, sharing with your family members that you love them, I think that that's so important and a great thing that's so easy to do, but also so overlooked. And there are sometimes families who maybe like it's inferred, it's given that that's there, but the actual art of saying it is so important and so valuable. So, inshallah, may someone be inspired to begin doing that practice if they aren't already. And regarding the dua for protection, that's so important as well. Actually, just before our call, I don't know if you're familiar with Dunya Shaib. She does like Islamic talks. But regardless, there's so many awesome people doing awesome things, inshallah. But regardless, she has a really nice PDF on her website of like different protection dots and whatnot. And I was just talking to one of my clients, when was it, 2 days ago, I believe. And I literally just sent her that PDF because everything is just right there, with hadith references and whatnot, like right before we got on this talk, because I wanted to give her the link to that. So that's an important non-negotiable for me as well. And you referenced your mother. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with her, but dua, those types of things were also instilled in me from my mother. So alhamdulillah for mothers. And in terms of the physical stuff, that's so good too. I'd love for you to share alhamdulillah, it seems like again, like we said, everything is figure outable, right? And when you want to do something, I'm a firm believer that when you want to do something, you'll find a way. But so many mothers know that they should be taking a couple of moments for themselves to kind of center themselves the way that you choose to do in the morning, but they don't. And it's understandable because, again, like you said, you yourself, breastfeeding and whatnot, you're up, I believe you said around 5 times a night, give or take. So what would you say to the mother who's maybe struggling and feels like, I don't even know how I would begin to, take some time for myself? Do you have any thoughts to share with someone like that?
Yasmin, as mothers, we give, and we give.
Mm-hmm.
We forget that we have to take care of ourselves. And I always say this to my children and my husband. I say, look, I'm the mother ship. If I go down, you're all going to go down with me. So if I don't, spend time for myself, whether it's that half an hour in the morning, just pondering on how the day is going to be and what I plan for it, and having that quiet time, or making some time for myself on the weekend by, for example, for me, having fun me time is going to a farmer's market all by myself, or going to the local supermarket all by myself is like a little vacation. And if I don't have these moments, at least, once or twice a day, I'm not going to function very effectively. I'm going to be grouchy. I'm going to be snappy, because it has happened. There have been days that I've missed it consecutively because it's been incredibly busy. Mm-hmm. And my husband and my children notice that I become more, sort of aggressive and short-fused, and that doesn't benefit my family and it doesn't benefit myself. So, sisters, I urge you, even if it's, 10 minutes, 3 times a day, where you can just move away from the children, even if need be, just, leave the house and do something simple for yourself. You must do it. You must make that time, because that 10 minutes, 3 times a day, which only equals 30, can really transform how your day pans out and how you feel mentally and physically and even spiritually. If you're if you're reserving some of that time to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's very important.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair for sharing. And I think it's such a powerful, important message. I know that I do work with a lot of mothers, either one-on-one or the classes I teach, and I've seen through so many women just the differences of when they're taking that time. And it makes sense why sometimes people may not, of course, things like guilt and feeling like, if I do, I'm taking something, but actually it's giving so much more. I laughed when you were talking about the farmer's market and the supermarket, because my husband always says like, oh, you like have so much fun here. So I guess when you're a health enthusiast, alhamdulillah. But tell me, Derya, what is something that comes easy to you? And alternatively, what is something that maybe doesn't come so easy to you? So the reason I'm asking this question to some guests is because, in an effort to kind of keep things real and also to reflect on ourselves, see what our strengths and weaknesses are, I think sometimes we forget that to appreciate the things that come easy to us, and also to acknowledge that the things that come hard to us, maybe, the things that come easy to us may come hard to someone else, and vice versa. So I'm hoping through your example and others that people could get a new perspective and kind of reflect on their own things accordingly. If you could think of anything for both.
Look, from a health perspective, something that comes really easy to me, which a lot of people don't understand why and how, is avoiding rubbish food, avoiding processed food, avoiding fast food. For me, is a breeze. And I don't say that with any sort of arrogance. In the past, it was very difficult for me to overcome eating like that. My teenage years were, past eating huge amounts of rubbish food, food that contains no nutrients. And so now, with all my knowledge and the way I've sort of changed my taste buds to appreciate quality food, I find that, as a teacher, for instance, walking into the staff room and seeing a buffet of white flour goods, cakes, biscuits, and what have you, I could just sort of look at it and go, oh, don't feel like any of that, and be able to walk off. My husband's still working on that, because he's teaching now, and he'll come home and he'll say, oh, there was a spread on the table. And I said, well, what did you go for? And he goes, well, I best not say. So I've still got some work to do, but I find also deciphering through ingredients when I go shopping to purchase personal care products or food products for the family. I suppose I've done so much investigation into ingredients that I could look on the back of a box or a bottle or a pack and say, I'm not buying that. And I can put that away easily because of all the experience I've had with labeling. And numbers and long chemical terms. And I suppose having that sort of science background is helping out as well. So for me, that comes really, really easily. I suppose what comes difficult for me would probably be always striving, not starting a task until I think it's perfect. That's a really big downfall that I've got. So, you know, people say to me, why don't you do Facebook Lives? And I think, Facebook Live, what on the moment, what would I say? You know, when is the right moment? And so that notion of trying to get things perfect before getting them done is one of my big downfalls, really. It prevents me from taking risks and jumping and doing things that I know if I did them, it's going to benefit so many people. But those self-limiting beliefs, I suppose, of, oh, I don't know, can I, should I, those sort of beliefs hold me back. So it's mainly beliefs, really, belief systems. I need to overcome those.
Inshallah, inshallah. Well, thank you for being raw and honest and real, and sharing those things with us, because I think that it's so helpful. And this is a little bit of a selfish response nonetheless, but one of the awesome things about getting to interview like-minded folks like yourself is being able to resonate and whatnot. And actually, I could very much relate to your easiest and your hardest, subhanAllah. So when I was a teenager, man, I was pretty unhealthy. I got into nutrition like the end of my high school years, which is right before college, and also fitness around that time. And, it's been uphill since then. But yeah, in terms of like the I love how you use the word rubbish, so I'm going to borrow that from you. But in terms of certain things, they don't appeal to me. In fact, if I feel like having something that I miss or whatnot, like I love recreating it in the kitchen or finding new ways. And I'd probably feel worse having those things than like feeling like I'm missing out, so there's really just no desire there whatsoever. But I resonate with the fact that for some people that's very difficult. So I'm, empathetic towards that. And I appreciate that that's easy. I think when you know the science behind it and understand like how you feel, like it's not just, like people go for those things because they taste good, but then it's also when you understand how they make you feel and how, and you put that all together, like I feel so aligned personally, and it sounds like you do as well, between food that makes you look good, feel good, and it also tastes good, like in terms of how your taste buds adjust and whatnot. And also, yes, I could think of the years spent just researching ingredients and whatnot and really getting into that. So I could really resonate with what you said there. And in terms of that perfectionist mindset, I actually call myself a recovering perfectionist. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Brian Johnson, but there's a very cool YouTube video if any of the listeners want to listen. I think it's like 7 minutes or so. He talks about something called being an optimalist, not an optimist, but an optimalist, where he talks about, it's like a pitch for perfectionists, so to speak, of how to like focus on being an optimalist, like optimal situations, because perfection just will never be reached. But I could definitely resonate with that, and sometimes just have to be like, okay, Yasmin, just do this. It's not going to be perfect. And I think when you care about something so much too, it's natural to want things to be very well. But like you said, it's important to take risks. What would you say you do if you ever feel overwhelmed, stuck? Do you have any sort of habits, processes, things like that you do to help you feel unstuck, or just methods to kind of get you out of that? Or even what you do while you're going through it, because sometimes it's not just that easy to just get out of it right away.
Yeah. If I'm stuck, one of the first things I try to remember is to breathe, because often when we're stuck and we're overwhelmed, we're shallow breathing. and that doesn't help the system at all. So one of the things that I've learned through some of the courses I've done is to just stop, pause, breathe from the belly, not from the chest. So alhamdulillah, I find that helps to ground me a lot. And just adhkar, dhikr, reciting dhikr in moments of intense stress. And, if I come across something health-wise that I'm stuck with, and I'm overwhelmed, what I do, I become this research crazy woman where I'll straight away hit the books, I'll hit online, and I will research the life out of the topic that is concerning me or one of my family members or my friends. And I will, resort to contacting certain mentors that I look up to and ask their advice to become, unstuck. They're the sorts of things that I do. And at the end of the day, I ask Allah for his guidance, to give me wisdom, to be able to become, get out of that rut that I might be in. Because ultimately everything I do goes back to Allah helping me out and guiding me to be on the path that I need to be on and to make the best decisions for myself and my family.
Absolutely. Jazakallah khair for so many wonderful gems. SubhanAllah, the last person I interviewed, she's big into Ayurveda and whatnot. And one of the first things she said was also, she was talking about the shallow breathing and breathing deeply and diaphragm breathing and whatnot. And I know that's a go-to for me as well. It's so powerful because even if you don't feel better right away, sometimes people want like a quick fix and they're like, well, I'm breathing deeper and I don't feel much better. Your body still calms down even if you're not mentally there yet. So it's so helpful. Was there something you wanted to say? I just don't want to, it looked like you might. Okay, alhamdulillah. So do you mind sharing any examples from your life where you've overcome adversity? The goal with this question is to, again, keep it real and also share kind of, if someone's going through adversity right now, they might benefit from your answer or, even reflecting on their own past adversities.
Oh, we've definitely had our fair share of adversity, as I'm sure many of your listeners would have had, and specifically health adversity, where I suppose the number one thing that comes to mind would be my mother-in-law's cancer. May Allah rest her soul. She had brain cancer and spent probably the last year with us in our family home. Alhamdulillah, Allah gave us the opportunity to be able to care for her and to earn the hasanats of that. But that was truly a overwhelming experience physically, emotionally, and mentally. It definitely was. At the time, when I reflect back, I think at the time it was incredibly difficult. I also reflect on most recently, a year ago, my husband being, diagnosed with a tumor in his chest when we thought everything was going rosy, and then, oh wow, where did that come from? And probably the other adversity that really stands out for me is my middle child having very, very severe eczema, where she was covered from her face down to her legs. Only her hands and feet were bare of the eczema. And I remember I was saying to my husband, she's taken years off my life because of all the struggle that I've gone through. But what happens through all these cases that I've just mentioned to you, Yasmin, is you grow, you develop, you mature, you become an amazing researcher. Because, when health is the concern, I put my, research hat on and I will delve into all the literature, both natural and Western medicine, because I believe that they complement one another. And alhamdulillah, by not only researching, by seeing the relevant people in their fields and getting advice from these people, specialists, doctors, naturopaths, and believing that everything that happens for a reason, happens from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is in ultimate control of the situation. And having faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whatever happens, whatever's planned is planned for us. And bearing in mind the ayat that says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and we will not burden you with more than you can carry. That to me has always made me feel more grounded and know that no matter what comes my way, as adverse as it feels, as painful as it is, I'm going through this for a reason. this is Allah's will. And if I wasn't able to carry this weight, Allah would not have given it to me in the first place. And it's that faith that gets me going. And having, ultimate, how do you say it? I just, I'm not remembering the word now, but surrendering to Allah's will and knowing that with all my dua and all the du'as of the loved ones around me, that we will get through this. And we may perceive the situation as shar at that time. So it may look like a really bad situation, but even in every shar, there is khair. And having that understanding and having iman, may Allah strengthen our iman, is what has gotten me through all my trials in my life. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Well, Jazakallah khair for sharing, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless and protect your family always, inshallah. And, inshallah, may, this be a positive benefit. I'm not sure if it was the word you were looking for, but one word that came to mind when you were describing that was the idea of tawakkul, or reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah. It's awesome when people could be in sync, but nonetheless, and it also, it's tough to remind yourself of that, but it's also such a blessing, because when you can attach meaning to adversity or hardship, that's what pulls you through. Like, I couldn't even imagine overcoming certain things without that core concept. So inshallah, it also is about those tools. I love all the things that you shared, because it's not just secluded or isolated to the situations you shared, but kind of like a system of tools that could be used even with adversity to come, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that we're going to get tested. It's not, it surprises us sometimes, but it shouldn't, because we're told that we would. And like you said, he also shares with us that we may think that something's good, but maybe it has some bad, or vice versa. It's seems bad, but it has good in it. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Yasmin Mujahid. She does a lot on Islam and whatnot. I love a lot of her work, and I know that she shares how in this dunya that it's a mixture of good and bad. Like, there's no such thing that's like 100% bad, no such thing that's 100% good, but how like in the akhirah there actually is, yes, 100% bad, 100% good. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to guide us all, and it was really inspirational to hear all of that. So thank you. Rewinding a little bit, I know you spoke a little bit about your teenage self, but whether you wanted to go into that or not, what advice would you give to your adolescent self? It's sometimes nice to kind of reflect on the past, and they say hindsight is 20/20, that we see clearer when we look backwards. Is there anything that you'd share with yourself that you'd want to share now?
From a health perspective, I would remind and encourage my teenage self not to eat rubbish. In fact, I was having this conversation with my 10-year-old this morning as I dropped her off at school, and I said, Rayhan, I said, Allah gave us this body as an amanah, and we need to look after it, because in the hereafter, our limbs will talk of the wrong that we've done. Yeah. And so, I gave her an example of, imagine I was drinking 10 energy drinks a week, and my stomach wasn't very happy with that. And my stomach may testify on the day of judgment saying she consumed this drink, which, created a chain of events that, led to poor health. And if we've got poor health, I said to her, how can I be a good mother? How can I carry out my ibadah during the day? How can I be a good wife? How can I do all these daily functions that I need to perform if I'm fatigued, laying on the couch all day? I said, would you like that? And she said, oh, no, Mum. I said, well, the food you eat is what you become. And so, when I look back at my teenage years and having, a cola every day, a packet of chips every day, whatever lunch was sent off with Mum was sort of shunned aside, thrown to the birds, popped in the bin. I would definitely, and this is something that I don't obviously want repeated with my 3 children, is to educate them as to why it's so important to look after your body, because I am now, till this age, living with the consequences of the decisions, the food decisions that I made as a teenager. We're talking 25 years, down the road. And all the food that I ate and all the antibiotics that I took because of silly reasons. As a teenager, I had some pretty bad pimples. And what do? You're very self-conscious. You go to the doctor prescribed month after month of antibiotics. Now that severely disrupted my gut. And as a result, I ended up with a lot of gut health problems, skin cleared, but it was also only sort of a band-aid fix, because as soon as I got off the antibiotics, the skin went back to being, red, raw, and acne ridden. It wasn't until, again, the changes that I've made for the last sort of 13 years that I can say, correcting and healing my gut day by day, which is a long process, as long as it took to damage the gut is pretty much just as long as it's going to take to heal the gut. It's baby steps process. No one should expect that it's going to happen overnight. It is how I've gotten to where I am today. And I truly believe that what you see on the outside is a reflection of what's happening on the inside. And so, my message would be to my adolescent self, I wish you ate better, but I hope that I can now do this for my children by role modeling to them how to look after this, body that they've been given as a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I suppose the other advice I would give to my adolescent self is, please have some direction as to where you want to head with your career. Because I remember being in my final year of study in secondary school and not knowing what I wanted to do. I didn't have clear guidance. And I urge teenagers, in this day and age, to seek mentors in the community that you can talk to, see a careers advisor that's there to listen to you with all ears and sort of gauge what your interests are so that you find the career path that's going to suit you and give you happiness. There's no point embarking on a study to please your parents. So my parents want me to become this, and therefore I'll pursue that career only to either drop out of university or to be waking up 9 to 5, going to a job that you hate. I don't think there could be anything worse than that. That's a real disservice to ourselves. So, you need to wake up in the morning with a spring in your step. You have to wake up and say, okay, what am I going to do today that's going to change my life or change the lives of others? That's how I feel. When I get up, I think, I wonder whose life I'm going to positively touch today. And when you wake up with that sort of energy, that fuels you through the day. You're a lot happier because you're helping others. Helping others brings happiness to you. That's the reality, And so that's the message I would give. So you don't waste your years of tertiary education if that's the path you want to embark on. There are many people who don't do tertiary and are incredibly successful, mashallah. It just have passion and have some awareness of, what you want to do and what motivates you, and follow in that direction. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair. I think what I loved most about that answer was that you're talking about passion, and I could literally feel like the energy, passion, like through the screen, even though we're literally like oceans apart. Subhanallah. So it's, I love passionate people, and, it's very clear that this is important to you. And I love that you brought up gut health. That's so important. And also the fact that when people are healing things, that things take time. That's so important as well. And even when I think of gut health, I think of our beloved Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the famous hadith of how he talks about stomach, how all disease begins in the stomach. And, as of lately, the last couple of years, we keep on seeing more and more clinical research and whatnot talking about how gut health impacts psychology and mental health and skin and all these, everything. It's so important. So, that I'm sure that gives some hope to some people who may be on that journey and whatnot, and really also just driving home the idea of how what we put in our bodies and also on our bodies is so important. So jazakallah khair for that. So what makes you happy and joyful, Derya? So any hobbies, any people, any, just, I think it's so important, especially for us women. I know you talked about fun earlier before, but just sometimes as adults, we forget to just have fun and play and do things that make us happy and joyful. So the goal of this question is different things make different people happy. So what is it for you, if you don't mind sharing?
You know what? In a nutshell, as a mother, a daughter, a health coach, all of the above, helping other people to be happy and thrive makes me incredibly happy. And that starts within the home. When I see a smile on all my family members' face, when I see, my son laughing or my daughters, playing together, almost rare because they're like a cat and dog at this age. But when I see that tranquility and I see the happiness in them, when I see a client come up to me and say, Derya, I followed the protocol you gave and I'm feeling amazing. I'm a better mom, I'm a better wife. I feel energetic at work. Or someone commenting on a product that they've purchased from us and they're saying it's transformed my hair or my skin looks amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And it comes alongside with a dua. I think the happiness that I get from all those things that I just mentioned is invaluable. The feeling I get is indescribable. It really gives me so much joy to see happiness in other people that, that I have contributed to. Alhamdulillah. Other than that, spending time with my family is something that brings me utmost happiness. It really, really does. It's so hard to put into words because I feel all this emotion in me at the moment. My brain's rushing, my heart's pounding, and I'm thinking happy, happy, happy. And the vision that's coming in front of me is my family, my friends, everything that makes me happy is surrounding me. And it's really, really important to put a healthy sort of barrier between you and people who try to harm your happiness. Mm-hmm. So as I've progressed in age and I suppose increased in maturity and wisdom and got to see everything that I've seen so far in my life, I've realized how important it is to sweep out the closet of friends and family every now and then and get rid of those, or at least distance those people who are constantly shedding negativity in your life. Whether it be, put downs about your future goals, whether it be, anything that they're putting down, or they're constantly spewing with negativity. Oh, I had such a bad day and I did this and I did that. Oh, and the kids didn't stop moaning and my job from 9 to 5 is horrid. And, that's okay to have a rant every now and then. We all do. But when you thrive on those rants and all you do is you think negativity, you feel negativity, what ends up happening to the people that you associate with is that energy rubs off and that has consequences. And so what I try and do, no matter if it's family or not, with family, I do not break ties. Silatul Rahim is very, very important. What I do is I try and place a healthy distance. With friends, I can cut ties off because I don't have a religious obligation to continue to have them in my life. But I create this barrier around me where I will have people in my inner circle that help me thrive and I help them to thrive. And it's all about positivity. And I'm always instilling this in my children. And in fact, when they talk about something in a negative manner, I say, how about we flip that and make it positive? Let's do a positive thinking. And often my eldest, who's, her brain's always fully active, she'll say, oh, Mum, you just make me feel so good after speaking with you. I really needed to hear that. So alhamdulillah, push out the negativity. You don't need that. We've got enough of that happening in the world. All you have to do is open up your news feed on Facebook or to go onto Insta or to step out into the street to see negativity. There's too much of that. Protect your zone. Create a zone for yourself and you will have that happiness and joy in that zone.
Yeah, subhanAllah, thank you so much for sharing that. And the power of words is so important. And I love that you shared that it's also, obviously no one's going to be happy all the time. So it's not about that. But I love that you clarified how it's about, there is this addiction sometimes people have to negativity and thriving on those things. So it's healthy to talk about the hard stuff and work your way through that as well. But when that's like the fuel for thriving, then you do have to be careful around what you surround. I'm a big believer as well, and this is not something from me, it's from our beloved our dean, alhamdulillah, that keeping the ties of family is so important. But I love that you gave some practical advice on how you could still be responsible for what you surround yourself with, even when adhering to that. And that's, I know that's something that I get lots of questions on and things like that. And it's so important to surround ourselves with that. I'm not remembering the scientist's name at the moment. It was either a scientist or a doctor, but I don't know if you've ever heard, or if listeners have ever heard of this really cool experiment where they took an apple, the same apple, and you cut it in half and you keep them in two different containers, whether that's like a mason jar or a bowl or whatnot, and you put them in separate places and you actually speak words to the apples for a couple of days. Have you heard of that? And one's
Yes, I
positive
think it
words
was
and one's
Japanese.
I'm sorry?
Japanese doctor. I think it was a Japanese doctor. I
Yeah.
can't remember his name. He was very big. He was
Okay.
talking to water in jars as
Oh,
well.
yes. You are right. That's how they figured it out. And since apples have such a high water content, that's why they did it on that. But yes, they got it from water. Thank you for chiming in. And this is something people could find on Google. And perhaps when I record the intro, I'll reference what it is. But anyway, when you look at it over a week, and I actually did this experiment maybe like a year and a half ago to kind of test it in my own home, there is a difference. Like the one with negativity is bruised versus the other one. Like it's amazing. Subhanallah, but the power of our words are so important, the energy we surround ourselves with. I think it was from your last question, but I forgot to comment on it. I love that you also shared that when you take your own journey of not eating very well when you were younger and how that fuels your passion to help others, especially your children, that you emphasize that it's not just telling them, but teaching them. I think it's so important to empower people, not just like they should understand why they're doing certain things. So thank you for that as well. In terms of the next question, I'd love to hear how Islam has inspired you. It's very clear that it's very intertwined into your life, and we've spoken about it a lot as well in terms of dua and tawakkul and reliance on Allah. But is there anything else you'd like to shed on regarding that maybe hasn't been brought up?
I could probably add one more thing to all of that. It's part and parcel of my life from Fajr until I go to bed. Everything I do, in all my thought processes, in every new project that I think up, it's always the will of Allah, and if something is halal or not, and istishara and things like that. Everything is part and parcel of everything that I do, alhamdulillah, which is why I feel that it's blessed, alhamdulillah. But I think a point that I need to make, which is really, really important, especially for the Muslims out there, is that when we're talking about health and wellness in terms of what we're consuming and what we're using on our bodies, and the environment, we need to consider, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, Allah mentions in numerous verses to eat of and to use not only the halal, but he goes on to add tayyib. So what is halal and what is good for you. I think as Muslims, we get hung up on the halal and we think, yep, that meat is halal, that product is halal, it doesn't have any gelatin, it doesn't have any emulsifiers in there, we can eat this, it's got the tick and the approval on it, but we sort of stop there and we think that's it. We don't go on to the rest of the verse, which says, and tayyib, and eat from that which is good for you. And so, again, the example that I give, for example, my child, when I was speaking to her about eggs in a supermarket, we had all these eggs on the shelf. And I said to her, look, sweetheart, the eggs, you have to pick and choose the one that's got the best quality, so that the eggs have truly free range running around. They've got sunlight, they've got good healthy feed, they've foraged on worms and grass and what have you. That's the ethical egg that you're after. I know you're going to have to pay a little bit of a premium on that, but at the end of the day, that's going to affect your body physically and even spiritually, because if you're eating the egg from a chook that has been stressed, has been caged up, has not been able to flutter its wings, is, sorry to say, but pooping in its own cage onto another chicken, you're going to get the energy of that egg and it's not going to be great. And so I talk to them about, not only is the egg halal, but let's make sure that the egg is also tayyib and that the animal had good, healthy, ethical conditions that it was raised and reared in. And so I give them examples like this to help foster the idea of how important it is to go beyond just the halal, which is incredibly important, but the other 50% of the equation in our lives. And I urge all Muslims to think like this, to act on this with everything that they're consuming and using topically on their bodies. Alhamdulillah. It's very, very important.
Alhamdulillah, I love that you brought that up and the whole tayyib conversation. I don't know if you're familiar with Yvonne of My Halal Kitchen. She's a friend of mine as well, and she talks about this as well, how it's not just halal, but tayyib. And I think that that's so important. And, you know, there are different, people have different beliefs, and that's fine in terms of what is healthy and what isn't and whatnot. And for those who do consume animal products, it's so important to find tayyib. I know that I've been very happy to see, especially over the last couple of years, more and more shops and producers of halal foods focusing on the tayyib and how the animals are treated and what they're fed. Even for myself, I'm trying to remember what year this was. I maybe had like a 1.5 year period several years ago where I stopped eating animal products, not because I didn't think there was benefit in them, but because I couldn't find both halal and tayyib. But alhamdulillah, for the last several years, there is. I'm very blessed to live in an area where I do have resources for that. So that is really, really important, I think. And in terms of the premium that you pay, whether it's on eggs or animal products or what have you, it's worth it, you know. And I get it. Everyone is managing their family and on a budget and whatnot, but, you know, you could have higher quality and maybe a little bit less of it, or you could have something that's going to harm you. And in terms of the premium, well, let's also think about what it may be doing to you in the future. So I love that you brought that message up, because it's yet another thing I'm also very passionate about. Tell us, Derya, one of the last questions is regarding the future. And I'm a firm believer that talking about the present moment is what's most powerful for us and keeps us most alive, but it's fun. And a good activity to sometimes think and plan, even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of all planners. Where do you kind of see yourself in 15 years? We talked about your personal life today, your children. So I guess that opens up your mind like, wow, this child will be this old and this, inshallah, and all these different things, and your organic instinct. Where do you kind of see things in 15 years according to your plans at this moment? Inshallah.
Oh, wow. I mean, 15 years later, it sounds like a long way away, but time flies. From a health coach business perspective, inshallah, we plan to branch out from Australia and become more of a nationwide service provider of natural and organic products. But I think one thing that I'm really working on in the near future is developing my own brand of products, because at the moment we are selling brands that, you know, we haven't formulated. So we're like a health shop selling other brands. A few key things that my husband and I would like to work on are products that people use every day almost. So shampoo, conditioner, sunscreen, toothpaste. We'd like to work on developing our own natural healthy products, inshallah. The other thing that I've got happening, inshallah, is writing my very first book, because I've had so many people asking me, Derya, look, you know all this information. It's now obligatory on you to put it, you know, put pen to paper and write it so we can access the information freely whenever we need to. And I think the last time I tried to put pen to paper, I just wrote and wrote and wrote. We were on a car trip going for 2 hours, and I made all these notes, and my husband, you know, was saying, you're going to write a book? And I thought, I should write a book. All these notes, all this information that I've got in my brain, it's really hard to share one-on-one with everybody. And I thought if I could formulate everything into a book and share that with the world, I think I'd be doing a great service to my, fellow humans. And I suppose another thing I would like to create is an e-course. So I might not be able to come to your country, your state, your suburb, but at least if I have an e-course happening worldwide, everyone can access that e-course. And I was thinking of something like, you know, a low tox Muslima kind of course, because that's my area of expertise, living a really, really low tox, healthy life, and being able to reach every single, you know, male and female on the planet, you know, via the awesome technology that we've got, and expanding from our humble home into a very big warehouse, inshallah. And I want to, from a family perspective, I pray every single day that I am able to raise these 3 children to be an asset to the community, to be a role model for Islam, to be a role model for the community. And I always tell them, girls, akhlaq, 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 and then academia. I said, you can have all the amazing certificates on the wall of your achievements, but if it's not coupled with a really fine manner and haya, that general concept of akhlaq, which Rasulullah talks about constantly, we see it in the seerah when we study his life. If you don't have that, then you don't have anything. And I keep reiterating this to the children. So I really hope that the children that I'm raising today are the fine adults of the future that are, making us proud and contributing to society and really living their purpose on this earth, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair for all those beautiful things. Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you that and more than you can imagine, inshallah. And I love that your goals are family-centric, they're community-centric, even international and whatnot. And I'm sure so many people could definitely benefit. It's awesome what you could do with technology and whatnot. And as someone who's been doing e-courses for some years now, alhamdulillah, I could say it's definitely very, very awesome to be able to connect with people. And I look forward to you also taking all your information and sharing it in a book. It's no easy task.
No.
Alhamdulillah, I've been getting that question myself in recent times as well, and I have produced like a short stress ebook and also a cookbook that are on my website. But in terms of like just like general, people who put like all this knowledge and whatnot, not to say that those were easy, but nonetheless, it's a lot of work. Alhamdulillah, people often share who have books like that it takes years and whatnot, but inshallah, may all those things come true, and inshallah, maybe we'll have you back on the podcast to talk about some of those things as well in some time, inshallah. Do you mind sharing where people could find you? I will have links inshallah and whatnot, but just from your perspective, if you want to personally invite anyone to connect with you on any sort of social or visit anything, the best ways to link up with you, inshallah.
I mean, the best way is via social media. So on Facebook, I have a health group, alhamdulillah, that's almost 3,000 strong. And
MashaAllah.
It's a group where we discuss, how to better our health. It's not a diagnosis group. It's where we share recipes, we share ideas, we share various links, and support one another, again, to thrive, which is the ultimate goal of the group, and to live the best version of ourselves. And that can be found on Facebook. The group is called Achieving Ultimate Health with Derya Kucukali. So you can provide links for the listeners, inshallah, there. And our website is www.organicinstinct.net.au. We're also on Instagram as Organic Instinct. So that's already sort of 3 ways that we can come together, collaborate, learn from each other, inspire one another. I'm on a learning journey, Yasmin. I can never say, okay, I've learned everything I need now. I can sit back now. Never. Like Rasulullah says, cradle to the grave, inshallah. You need to seek knowledge, and that knowledge need not be limited to health and well-being. It should be, expanded to include our deen, knowledge of our deen, and putting that knowledge into practice. And any other area in life that motivates you, which is completely halal to pursue, we should pursue it and continue to seek that knowledge till we take our last breath, and to be a service to mankind, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair. Yes, there will be links to everything, inshallah. And I agree with you 1000%. I think lifelong learning is so important, and it keeps us fresh, and it keeps us relevant, and it also keeps us grounded. And really, when you stop learning, like, you stop growing, and
Right.
I mean, life causes you to grow through the different things that people have in their life and whatnot, but learning is such a beautiful, proactive way to do that. So thank you so much for your time today. And inshallah, it was really wonderful. We learned a lot of really great things, and we all appreciated having you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Yasmin. Thank you very much. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well, that is what we have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for spending time. I hope that you found today to be valuable, and I hope that it will inspire you in your own life. Again, the show notes for today's show can be found at wellnesswithyasmin.com/1. Please leave a review if you benefited from today's show. That will help other people find out about the show, and then you can pass on all of the goodness, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuhu.